Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 123 CMMC. I am Dana Mantilia, your host, and today our very special guest is Vic Malley.
Hello,
And
everybody.
he is the project manager for UTSA SBDC. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Vic?
Awesome. First and foremost, Dana, I am just overjoyed to be a part of your audience and your network. You're doing a great work, and just want to say thank you to each and every one of you that has taken time to invest in yourself today. Because I work at the University of Texas at San Antonio in the Small Business Development Center for Government Contracting. I know that's a whole mouthful, but so that's why we just made it, short and simple. But in the simplest layman's terms, I am your advocate that is funded by the Small Business Administration's grant for administering the Texas Cybersecurity Compliance Program. And as a business owner, you have a lot of challenges, especially with COVID and the things that we've been going through in the last year to maintain that profitability. But your profitability is in large fact due to your responsibility in how you secure your organization. And so 123 CMMC, we're going to start here real quick with Dana and see what we can learn today.
Yes, and we're going to talk, we're going to talk about people, processes, technology, and information with CMMC. Okay.
Excellent.
So we're going to start with our first question is, what does it mean to have personnel protection?
Great. So the easiest thing I would tell folks is there are over 110 controls that are aligned with the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. So what is that? That is now the new requirement for the Department of Defense for all organizations that seek to have a contract whereby your products and your services can be delivered to the Department of Defense. And it always, to me, starts with people, because you can have the greatest technology, you can have the greatest solution, but if there's not an individual, that carbon factor that's connecting, it's kind of hard to make that technology do it by itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And this is what we need to keep hammering into everybody, that people are involved in this whole CMMC, not just the IT department.
Right. So in order to be compliant, the first thing you need to understand is, and I would talk with, a lot of our clients, is how do you even bring people on? And IT professionals will tell you, well, it's that user. Well, it's all of us, because if I'm a subject matter expert and my day-to-day job is to look at the threat landscape, and that's basically to look at all of the updates that are being asked for you to apply and look at all of the indications and warnings of the threats that are coming at us, then you, as the not technical person, have to have that trust and confidence. And it starts with, how do I even screen people that are coming into my organization? Mm-hmm. And it's really not that hard. If you're about to bring on a new intern or a new first level employee, it would behoove you to kind of check up on what they've done in the past, mm-hmm. and look for those indicators or look for those, flags that says, is this person that's someone that's really trustworthy? Do a preliminary scan of their social media accounts. Mm-hmm. Are they professional? Or are they out there spreading inaccurate information? And if that's what they're doing outside of your organization, guess what they're going to do inside your organization?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great idea. And I think a lot of times people take people at face value and say, oh yeah, they don't stop and take that extra step to go look, because you can tell a lot about somebody by their social media, what they post, and a little bit of what kind of a character that they are. So that's an excellent bit of advice there.
Right. So, and everyone always talks about culture. Well, culture is a matter of the leadership and then the youngest, newest person that you've brought in. So while you're talking about putting together your cybersecurity maturity model certification, when you have an independent assessor that comes in, they're going to want to see what is your policy on how you screen personnel to make sure that you're bringing in, mm-hmm. a trustworthy human capital.
That's a good point. Another thing I like to tell people too is the sooner we get started with getting going here on the CMMC stuff, the better off, because we have to be able to show that this has been, this is actually what's been happening. We didn't put this policy in place yesterday. This
Right.
is what we do. So that takes some time too. So people
Right.
need to be interviewed when the assessor comes in, so it has to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Right. Yeah. So it's important. And then so part of what the assessors are going to look for is, hey, have you written this down anywhere? And is it all consolidated together? So I would say that when you're putting together that system security plan and you have that nice, fully developed document, handwrite it out. It doesn't have to be something that you do online. It would help if you did it online or digitally, but have it physical and digital, because in the event, let's say we've been having snowvid here in San Antonio, where the entire state of Texas lost power after our Winterfest. Yeah, we lost power here for 48 hours. It was not nice. But you have to have it written down, because in that case, now you can say, okay, this is how I bring a new employee into my organization. They get, yes, the HR, the human resources requirements for I-9s and so forth and background screening. But now you put that in your system security plan. You don't have to reinvent it. It's already written, hopefully, because it's a federal mandate that you have to check people. So now this is yet your documentation that you put in there. Now, is that all you have to do? No. It behooves you to understand that controlled, unclassified information needs to be sponsored and handled by accountable people. And your process and how you screen people, your personal protection begins with that, just how you even bring somebody on.
And then when you do bring them on, there should be some kind of code of conduct.
Oh my goodness.
Expected of them. And I can't tell you how many organizations they don't have that. So if you don't have, that's a great place to start. Put one of those in place to make sure everybody's on the same page with what the expectations are.
Yes. So personnel protection is just one of the measures within the NIST cybersecurity risk framework in how we identify, protect, defend, respond, and recover. So when you're bringing somebody in, that's what you're bringing them into. You're bringing them into your ecosystem. You're bringing them into your organization, so that when they're working with the Department of Defense, they now see your people as an asset, not only to you, but to them. While they may not wear a uniform, I'm retired, several years working with the finest airmen, Marines, sailors, and soldiers executing full spectrum operations around the world. Our greatest asset to me is our people. And that's why I'm wearing red, because today is Friday, and we remember everyone who's deployed. And part of that is, making sure you're screening folks before they come in, and you trust them to operate your information and provide your services.
Yep. All right. Now we're going to say, well, what does it mean to have physical protection?
Yes. So we always use the concept defense in depth. So notice how we started with people, and once we said write it down. You have to do the exact same thing physically. And Dana has done a lot of videos and information resources out there. And if you haven't gone to IPP, and that's Identity Protection Planning, you definitely got to be down with IPP, because there are practical steps that you can take. And just like at home, you wouldn't leave your front door unlocked, or you wouldn't leave windows unlocked. Why would you leave, your organization physically at risk for someone just to walk in? And so how do you do that? Well, you need to put locks in place on the physical facilities where you're working from. And a lot of us now are working from home. So it's important that you take a look at your environment. There is no cookie cutter solution to say that you have to have a motion camera, but guess what? We have the Ring camera. So guess what? That's a camera, and it's watching what's going on. So you put Ring cameras strategically around your home, so that you have situational awareness as to people going in and out, and you have a baseline of the activities that should be going on. So if you have activities at 1 o'clock in the morning, you might want to put something in place to let you know, hey, look, somebody's out there. It should be out there.
I know, what I think is a good thing too for people is to start with the physical, the building, looking at doors and locks and things like that, because that mentality is the same mentality we then have to go into our computer system, and who's accessing this and the network. But it's easier to start with something that we can really relate to. We can all relate to an open door, a lock, a camera, stuff like that. So it's a good way to get the ball rolling.
Right. I mean, and as you're, as you're looking at your facilities, and I mean, everybody has a different level of physical controls that they should have in place. But let's say you're a medium-sized organization, you have hundreds of people. You may want to have a security guard, and that security guard now helps you with that physical, monitoring and controlling people that are going in and out of your organization. And let's say you are, providing services to where you have visitors. You need to have a visitor's log, and you write down the date and time that somebody comes in. And if they're not a part of your organization, maybe you want to give them a unique badge that says, this is a visitor. This is not one of our organic employees. And when you get that badge and that visitor, I think Dana has put this out several times. You don't want your company badge showing up on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Not a good practice.
No.
Mr. Creepy's out there. Come on,
That's
folks.
Right. Exactly. He's everywhere. People that don't know who Mr. Creepy are like, what are they talking about?
You got to be down with IPP. Come on, folks.
All right. And now, so what do we need to have security awareness and training?
It really is about, you don't know what you don't know. So day one, when you bring a new employee into your physical location or your virtual location, after you've welcomed them, you need to sit them down and say, okay, this is our organization, and we want to be in business, let's say in this example, for the Department of Defense. Well, the Department of Defense is built on security, and we have to have trust and confidence that your behavior is such that you don't add risk to how we do our business. So Dr. Fogg is out in California. He has the Fogg behavior model. And he says that the behavior of an individual is a factor of the prompts. In other words, someone having to remind you to wash your hands or to use proper digital hygiene. And then your motivation, in other words, your desire has to be high and to do those things. And then your ability. So how much knowledge do I need to have in order to, watch for phishing, which is the voice social engineering, or smishing, which is text-based, social engineering, or we all know phishing. So you need to understand that you're a target, and your behavior needs to be a factor of all the prompts that are needed to be put in place, all of your ability in order to practice it. So if you've got your phishing button on your email, do your employees even know it's there and how to use it? And have you trained them and give them the awareness? And so that's an aspect that you should always incorporate within the cybersecurity maturity model certification. Have it written down, practice it, make sure the controls are in place.
And even making sure too, I mean, something so basic as if someone's a brand new employee, they need to understand that their credentials or their login or whatever, that is very, very valuable information. And someone needs to tell them, listen, you have to make sure this is kept extremely confidential. If someone calls from HR or the IT department and says, oh, we're getting all your information logged in, we need you just to give us your credentials. If that person doesn't know, they shouldn't be getting that phone call, and they're thinking, well, I'm new, I don't want to not follow orders. Of course I'm going to give the IT department my login credentials. And it could be, somebody who knows you're a new employee.
Right.
The bad guys
right.
look for that stuff. So.
Right. Yeah. So then there's training. So training is when you can now get into what we call role-based training. So what is role-based training? In simplest terms, it's this. If I am your guy and I work in the security operations center, I need to be trained in all of the tools, tactics, and techniques that are needed to be defensive as well as proactive to put the systems in place. But then my roles and responsibilities as a board of directors member or even a manager or even a director is such that I don't even know that, but how do I make sure that my direct reports and my non-information technology people are trained in their roles and responsibilities that are pertinent to their activities?
Mm-hmm.
So now you see the symbiotic relationship of, you can't separate what you do in your information technology center from what you're doing in your client relationship center. They have to be all linked together and connected and documented. And while you've probably heard in other the sessions that Dana's done, this takes months. This is why it takes months, because you can write it down, you have to go back and review it, and then kind of review those controls that are pertinent to your organization and how much you've implemented it. Is it fully implemented? It is partially implemented. Is it not implemented? Because that's going to then tell you later on, we talk about assessments and security and stuff like that, how well you've done the first three things we talked about today, which is personnel, physical, and now your security awareness training.
And another thing too is to encourage conversations, even amongst the employees. If everybody just starts talking about this, okay, this is a new thing we have to be aware of. I mean, I do this on the other side with the personal side of things, with identity theft and scammers. Start talking with your families. Talk about like the grandparent scam. Reach out to your parents and let them know that this is a possibility. And the more conversations that are happening, then maybe they'll tell a friend, or then we're all talking about ways that a new way that we need to become aware and be proactively watching out for ourselves, our families, and the organization. So encouraging conversations, that's a good way to help create the culture too.
Exactly. So when you put all of these things together, it's not just about having a documented program in place and having the infrastructure, if it's a managed service provider, or you have it organically with your IT staff, and you have compliance, but is the culture, is the way people conduct themselves such that they are looking for Mr. Creepy. They're looking for something that just does not look right. Mm-hmm. And then we've been talking about this in Information Security Professional for years. Last year, we were constantly promoting in 2021 the losses due to criminal activity related to cyber events would be $6 trillion. Here we are in the first 6 months. The first 6 months, we've had our food supply directly impacted. We had our gas and energy supply directly impacted. The transportation in the New York and Newark area has been drastically impacted. Mm-hmm. And then not to mention the Department of Justice had to get a court order in order to fix the Microsoft Exchange server, because communities, even though they were warned, hey, look, your email service is compromised. You have to fix this. They didn't take action. So action was taken for them. And you can't always depend on, the Department of Justice to do that. But that tells you the level of severity of the catastrophic outcomes that were in place for a court order to be issued. So don't be reactive, be proactive. And CMMC is now in place because the government, DOD, cannot afford to be in a reactive mode. You have to be proactive and move forward out on this.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest differences with what everyone was supposed to already be self-assessing that they were actually doing, and now you're going to have a third-party assessor going in there. And so there's no hiding here. There's no, oh yeah, we're doing that, check all the boxes kind of thing. So I think that once those assessors start going in there, that's when reality is going to come out that this has not been in place.
Right.
Anyway, well, thank you very, very much, Vic, for your time and all of your help with this. And everybody, thank you very, very much for listening, and hope to see you on the next broadcast, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Everybody be safe.
Bye.